You said the second half was initially like scary for you just because you were going to be redepicting a lot of the first half's events, right? And you said you found like how to kind of build that out through the character, right? Like through Janelle's character. Can you talk a little bit about like what other things you were thinking of to employ to make the second half more interesting? What was that process of like making sure that you're showing the second half in a new way, basically?
Well, it was. I mean, I guess in thinking about it, one of the things that like I knew that it's kind of interesting, but not engaging enough to just show the same stuff from a different perspective. Like the intellectual twist wasn't going to be enough. And so to me, the big thing was introducing the Helen character and getting you on her side. And I think Janelle, this is all Janelle Monáe, the fact that at that reset point, halfway through the movie, when you're basically meeting an entire new character, the way that Janelle plays it, she has our sympathies like immediately. And then you're locked in. We shot a whole runner in that second half where she was getting Zoom. Initially, she had kids at home and she was getting Zoom calls from her kid, freaking out because the kid's poop had turned blue because they had eaten too many blueberry Pop-Tarts. It was like just a runner that she would be like sneaking behind statues and hedges and kind of saying, getting these calls. And we shot it, and it actually took a lot of work to excise it from the edit once we were in there. But we pulled it out because once we realized the whole reason it was in there was to build in more empathy for the character. And we realized we didn't need that. The audience was on her side. It became a pacing thing of just let's speed it up and stick with the mission. I guess that's the other kind of answer to your question is giving her a clear defined mission in that second half and having it be very kind of like goal oriented. Never having the audience feel like they're kind of drifting and okay, we're kind of searching for something, but always being really clear of we got to go for this. Okay, now we have to go for this. And then it becomes almost like a buddy movie with her and Blanc, I guess.
I speak for millions of fans when I say hashtag release the blue poop cut.
It's all together.
You've created a movement today. I just want us all to like recognize
a movement, huh?
Yeah.
Hey.
When do we start? We just did. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just gonna say it's interesting too because the entire time we're meeting that character, we think she might be dead.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing is like I'm always curious to ask people on their first viewing whether they think that Helen is actually going to get killed at the end or whether they figure I'll find some way out of it. But that tension immediately of it's this character Andy who I'm guessing we kind of like, but it's not like we're fully invested in that character. She's kind of like a mysterious outsider. And we've just seen her get killed in one context. And the notion that suddenly when we realize that was a character we do actually care about, that's hanging in the back of our heads. Even if you imagine I'm going to figure out a way out of it, the notion of how is he going to figure out a way out of it, like drawing you forward through it is another big element of it.
I have to say, this movie definitely made me angry about halfway through when I was like, are you killing Janelle Monáe twice? How dare you? Wow.
I love it.
Yeah.
One of the moments in the movie that kind of gives tips your hand a little bit is when Andy shows up and like Edward Norton is like surprised to see her, right? He's like, wait a second, what are you doing? But he doesn't say any of that. And that's obviously like a very common trope in murder mysteries of like, oh, somebody expects someone to be dead, but they're alive. How do you play with the moment like that? Because what are you thinking when you're directing that moment? Because you obviously wanted to reveal something about Edward Norton, but you don't want to be too obvious. Like, what's kind of going through your head at that point?
That was a delicate moment. I talked a lot actually with Edward about what was actually happening in Miles's head when he saw her. I think my hope is the first time through when you see it, the surprise is that, oh, she actually showed up. This notion that he sends her an invitation every year, but the notion of with all the backstory behind them, she's actually shown up. Why? Yeah. And that's why the scene with Lionel on the boat right before that, she goes, the question is, why did she show up? Hopefully that's setting up a little bit. And so once you realize what the actual deal is and the fact that he thinks he killed her, what I have in my head is the notion that if you think about the method, which I show in that little flashback thing of killing her, he drugs her. It's not poison. He like drugs her and then puts her in a car with the engine running to poison her with, make it look like a suicide. So what I imagined is he sees her and he thinks, oh shit, she survived. She like woke up and turned off the car or something. Oh crap, it didn't work. I have to kill her again.
Right.
Because if you look at the end, when Blanc is
Right.
laying it all out, he is still completely shocked that it's her sister. It's not like he thinks, goes to like, he knows that, goes to the notion that it's somebody else faking her, So
It's the Bond villain going, you got out of that laser thing that
exactly.
I
Yeah. Oh yeah, precisely. Yeah.
So in a video you made for Vanity Fair talking about the first scene where they all meet each other, you said something I really appreciated. You said making a movie like this is kind of like making a dinner party. Like you're looking for people who fit the role, but you're also looking for people who will work well together.
Should we just watch the Vanity Fair thing? Should we just let's just
really did all the work.
Glad the heavy lifting is done for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
Sorry, you're doing great. You're doing great.
So 2 questions. One question is like, obviously in this movie, a lot of the characters represent archetypes. The video game streamer, the politician, the model, the scientist. Can you talk about like how you arrived at these specific archetypes for this movie? And then I'm also wondering, like, when you're putting together the dinner party, like, how are you evaluating that? When you're like interviewing or having a meeting with someone, are you like, would they get along with Dave Bautista? Like, how are you kind of assembling the dinner party?
Everybody gets along with Dave Bautista. I'd hate to meet the person.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, I coming up with all the different types. I mean, when I guess the starting point was Miles. The starting point was committing to, okay, it's going to be a tech billionaire. And that came out of a bunch of stuff. That came, first of all, out of it just seeming fertile because of all the stuff in the news. And just, we had this notion of this archetype seemed like a interesting one. Also, though, I want it to be on a beach. And one thing with murder mysteries, what you're trying to do is figure out some way of isolating the scope of the suspects. And especially with a movie where you have to be incredibly efficient with it, the more restricted and isolated you can get in terms of this is the game, the game board that we're playing on, the better. And so the notion of them being on like a private island, kind of like and then there were none type setup, seemed to me the way to go. And that means whoever is inviting them all out there needs to own an island. And then that very naturally led to, okay, so it's a tech billionaire. And then the type of people that a tech billionaire would have as his group of friends, that
hangers on.
Yeah, hangers on. That then lends itself to people in position, a certain kind of like types, I guess. And so, and that also influenced the tone. That's also why this one is a little more kind of Dr. Strangelove in its tone. It's a little more heightened. It's a little more comedic. That's not like a trajectory of where these movies are going tonally. That's just what this one required. And the notion that each one will be slightly tonally different based on what the movie actually is. I like that.
I love how funny it is. And one of my favorite gags is the character of Daryl. He's great. It's great. It's always funny. And I wonder if you intentionally wanted, I kept thinking throughout the movie, like, oh, Daryl's going to have something to do with it. Did you want him there to be a potential suspect, or just a red herring, or just a gag? What was the notion there?
I thought it was just going to be a comic runner, but then I kind of realized it's actually really nice to have like this one element of the thing that seems like a Chekhov's gun type thing. But that isn't. Because there's so much in the movie that is deliberately laid to pay off the notion that Daryl is just a guy. And also, it was just an excuse to have Noah Segan on set. He's one of my best friends since Brick, and I've had him in every movie I've done, and I just will always want to have him around. So
it's so funny to have a detective like trying to figure out all the suspects, and there's literally a guy there who's like, I'm not here. I'm not here.
He's not part of the experience. Also, we're not lying to you, though. He's not part of the experience at all. I wouldn't lie to you. Yeah.
He almost gave me more empathy for Miles too, because I was like, oh, this guy, he's keeping one of his friends around. Right.
It's also it is
pretty sweet.
The thing I think with like the super rich, that there's somebody in the pool, there's someone living in the pool house, and it takes
he's Kato Kaelin.
The Kato Kaelin. It's not quite it's not always the most intuitive choice of who would be its but there's something about that felt very real.
I kept looking for the Trooper Wagner tie-in to his character in Knives Out 1. I was like, is this Daryl the same guy from Knives Out 1?
We discussed it, that maybe he went through a divorce and he's kind of going through some shit. Yeah, it's possible.
He met Miles Braun in an older case and then decided to take refuge on the island. Yeah,
I like your proper pronunciation of Wagner. Also, that was very nice. I liked
it.
My
research. Did all my research.
Vanity Fair has an amazing video on that.
Exactly.
That was a clip from the Filmcast After Dark. To get access to the whole episode, go to patreon.com/filmpodcast. You can sign up for ad-free episodes as well as exclusive After Darks. You can find the regular podcast at thefilmcast.com. And of course, like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.